I know why you're here. You want to see me rank each of the characters that appear in Katawa Shoujo, but before we do that, I would like to make a quick announcement as to the fact that as of the time of this recording, there's only 1 day left until the 10th year anniversary of Katawa Shoujo. So by all means, please be on the lookout for tomorrow at 6 PM UK time, where I'll be doing a live stream for 4 hours of this beautiful game. Now, without further ado, we shall commence down an avenue in which no other YouTuber has gone down before. It is just a completely original idea as to what one can do when they run out of ideas on a day-to-day basis, and that is to make a tier list. So we have our wonderful tier list here. We go from S to F. When I was looking up tier lists, there was an F tier, but I put one in because there is one particular character which grades F, but we will come to that when the time comes. And don't worry, it's none of the waifus of this game, or the friends that we have. More importantly, friends. Okay, we're going to be starting off with Lily's sister, Akira. I'm going to put Akira in the B tier. I quite like her as a character, although I don't think she's as strong as other characters in the game, and she's a bit too, I don't know what you call, cheerful, carefree. I think carefree is more a problematic nature, unless if it comes towards Lily, then she does have some concern, but majority of the time she's a cheerful, carefree lass, but also quite business oriented as well. Mr. Aparazaki, and the only reason why I put him here is because, well, we've never met him in the game. He is unfortunately a deceased character in which Emmy, one of the main characters in the game, lost during their childhood years. So that is why we are putting them at D tier. D for we don't know where to rank them, so we're going to put them within a the non-bottom tier. Actually, we could make like a tier like characters which we don't really have an affiliation with, but I'm going to put them at D tier. Speaking of Emmy, we're going to put Emmy at A tier. She is a very, very quirky, energetic, and wonderful character to be around. Like, whenever you're near her, she has a bound full of energy. She's very contagious when it comes to her energy levels. Now, I'm going to put these next two characters up here, and what I'm going to say is that these two characters are completely interchangeable. One time I will think that Lily is my favourite character of the game, but tomorrow I'm going to say that Hanako is my favourite character of the game. Whatever you say is number one, I would agree with it, and these two characters really struck me throughout the game. Now, I think that Lily's route is better than Hanako's route. I think Hanako's route is too short and not that thoroughly exploring Hanako as a character, but I love the parts in which... Well, okay, let me just step back. It's not the fact that there wasn't any depth, it's just the fact that there wasn't a big amount of time so that we can fully go in depth about Hanako. But that is where I'm going to put these two wonderful characters here. I think that Lily is an absolute splendor to be around, but I think the reason why I'm going to put Lily as number one is because she's Scottish. Hideaki I'm going to put as a D tier. Shizuni's brothers, I can't quite remember now, I do apologise about that one. Not hugely fond of this character, I'm not going to lie. I found her to be a little bit annoying when going throughout the game. Probably because they're a little kid, and little kids are kind of very inquisitive, but this one is too inquisitive for her own good. Kenji is a bit like Marmite, you either really like him or you really don't like him. In this case, I'm not a huge fan of Kenji. I find him to be like the most cringy character out of all of them. I just couldn't get along with his antics and stuff like that, which is why I'm putting him down at D tier. It's nothing to do with the fact of his disabilities, it's down to him as a person. The protagonist I'm going to put down as a B character. Their condition came about later than the others, I believe. Yeah, because at the very start of the game, it was basically between him and Ionico, and then that incident happened, and then that forever changed his life. Going about the school, adapting and accepting to the outcomes. I think he was, I would say, at the beginning of the game, I would say a D tier, but I think him as a character, he really adapted to the school life of where he is right now. And going forward, it could be either a bad route, which is with Kenji, or it could be a good, normal, or bad route with one of the other characters within the game. So I think he's quite a strong protagonist by the end of the game, but I wouldn't be surprised if people put him lower. Ionico is kind of like Emi's dad. We don't really meet her throughout the game aside from the very beginning, and also with the letters as well. It seems like Ionico does have some kind of resemblance for the protagonist of the game because of what happened and everything that went on. It's like the attachment between the two characters became very, very apparent as time progressed. In the hospital, for example, they spent less time talking to one another as time went on, and the general nature of all things just kind of turned sour. Apart from that one last letter which Ionico wrote, and I think it has more context within Rin's route rather than the other route, because I remember it was kind of dependent on which route of the game you're in, depending on how much context Ionico wrote for the character. Chiguro is going to be F. I do not like this character whatsoever. He comes off as rude, arrogant. He thinks that everyone that younger than him should always respect him because he's older and all that jazz. He goes on about this, he goes on about that. He has this trait, he has that trait. He's just such an arrogant, stuck-up man who only thinks of himself. And he keeps talking about how young people should respect elderly. Well, we could respect you if you're not so disrespectful towards everybody else other than yourself. He just does not give me that kind of fatherly vibe that a father would do anyways. Anyways, we're going to go on to Mrs. Aparazaki, and she's going to land firmly on C tier. We don't really get to know her much throughout the game, although within the 2 moments we get to know her, she quite shone throughout those moments. Like, she has that motherly vibe about her that looks after Emi, always concerned about her. Was there 3 moments? There was that time at track, there was time when you went to dinner, and oh wait, there's also the time when the 3 characters went to see the father's grave. So that was that moment too. But she is a good character. C, I think, is a respectable tier, but if you put her higher, then I would also understand that. Miki is a very cheeky character, but she has that energy which I really like about her character. She's cheeky, but she's not like rude or arrogant or anything like that. So, either the bottom of A or the top of B. Yeah, I'm going to put you at B. Yeah, I like this character. I like her a lot. Sheena, or otherwise known as Mischa, mischievous, for goodness sakes. Also, like Miki, she has boundless energy, and she just screams so much. She screams at the least needed times to do so, and it's always in class, and I don't know, she has a boundless amount of energy too. She's actually going on top of A for a moment. I thoroughly love exploring with this character, although the other character associated with her I don't like as much. Our homeroom teacher. He's a little bland, but I do like him, so I'm going to put him at the bottom of B. Like, I've come across teachers in my time that is not that enthusiastic about the subject, but it's something which they're good in because, well, that's what life has treated them like. But I think the teacher, who I have forgotten the name, is Ionico Muto. I believe that's what it is. Oh my god, yeah, Ionico Muto. I just have a wiki pulled up alongside me just so I can remember each of the side characters. And yeah, it really helps the protagonist get to know the school and stuff like that. Also alongside the Doctor as well, which will obviously be ranking soon. Actually, change my mind, he's going to be top of C because of weighting balance and stuff like that with all of the different tiers. Okay, if it was at the beginning of the game, like getting to know this art teacher, I would say possibly at the start of, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Come on, get back there. Was it there? No. It would have been the top of C, but by the end, he is going to be a D- character. Like the sheer rudeness that he shows towards both the protagonist and Rin at the end of the game was just something which I really disliked. This man here is more of a business/career ambitious kind of guy rather than the health of a person. Particularly towards Rin at the end of the game, when he was really angry with Rin, but especially in the true ending when like she ran away from the exhibition that Rin worked towards, and Rin couldn't accept all pressure by it. But the teacher was insistent about, well, why did she stop and why did she escape and stuff like that. Not cool by my books. When you're a teacher, you should also note about the health of the student rather than just like their career prospects. Like, you can be all sacrificial and all that kind of jazz, but make sure not to try and sacrifice someone else's life just because you kind of sacrifice your own life into art. The school's nurse, I really liked him. His really welcoming energy that he presents to the player, but also a stern energy too when it comes to like injuries and stuff like that. Like, he takes serious matters seriously, but he is at the most of the time very casual and very laid back, but also very funny too. Like, remember going throughout the game, he was always that character which you felt comfortable being around, and he's mainly associated on Emi's route, but I also think a portion of Hanako's route that he was also present too, particularly when Hanako was not turning up to class and stuff like that. Rin really shone with me. Like, she's going to be at bottom of A, but she really shone with me as time went on. Like, she strikes me as quite a boring character at the very beginning of the game, but her ambitious ways really came through, and she actually had a goal in mind when going through her route. It wasn't just about, you know, just commenting on what's around you and stuff like that. Rin really put her heart into her projects and stuff like that, and I really find her to be that kind of courageous character in which we all need to be at some point within our lives. Okay, this next character, Sonochi's, the art teacher's associate, stuff like that. I'm gonna find you mainly better than the art teacher, but not as better. Like, I don't really feel any kind of establishment with her whatsoever. Shizuni, I would originally have her as D tier, but I'm gonna put her at the bottom of C tier. She is like the Alice of Student Union. She's cocky, arrogant, competitive, but she also is a very strong-willed, very caring person at the same time. Like, she looks out for her peers. She is like the student council president, if I remember correctly. She's always looking out for others, and she wants only for the very best. So that's why she is always very stern. But when it comes to like competition stuff like that, she is unfortunately overly competitive for my likes. But I can understand why she's like people's favorite characters. Shopkeeper is a shopkeeper. Don't find any huge points about him that particularly stuck out, because you only meet him on 1 or 2 occasions at the very most throughout the game. So don't have anything to say about you, although you are very kind towards your customers, I believe, if I remember correctly. So you're going to stay at the bottom of C. Last but certainly not least, our librarian and cafe maiden kind of personnel. You are going to be a strong A tier. I really liked going through the game and always having this clumsy individual with us, but it's not because she's clumsy, which is why I put her here. And, well, clumsy is a trait in itself, and it's not something that can be discredited from a person, because we're all individuals at the end of the day. But Yuko is also one of those characters, like Rin, who is quite ambitious in their own ways, even though they don't really show it confidently. But Yuko is always there for the character, like alongside the school nurse and alongside the homeroom teacher. Yuko was always one of those characters that supported the protagonist through his tale throughout the game. So, actually, I'll put that. Come on, you. There we go. I don't like using this site. Like, when you try to drag one thing over to the other, sometimes it doesn't work. But I really liked the experiences that we had throughout the game with her. She was always this welcoming beam of energy, even though she might always be falling over or spills a cup or anything like that. It's always pleasant to be around her. So, quick recap. Lily and Hanako, S tier. Top 2 characters, and as I said earlier, these 2 characters can be interchangeable, and whichever way round it would be, I would be very happy with that. But it's the only trait that is putting Lily slightly on top of Hanako is because she's Scottish. And then we have, up on A tier, we have Misha, Yuko, Emi, the wonderful nurse of the academy and academy school. And then Rin as A tier. We have a protagonist. Oh gosh, what's your name again? Oh gosh, I'm covering this game tomorrow for 4 hours or so. Miki and Lily's sister, which I've forgotten again. Akira again. B tier. Then we have a homeroom teacher. Emi's mom, Shizuni, and a shopkeeper at C tier. We have Shizuni's brother, Kenji, Ionico, Emi's father, the helper of the art teacher, and the art teacher at D tier, and then Shizuni's father at F tier. I hope that in some ways, also forgot to mention at the very beginning of all this, is that this is just my own independent individual list, so whatever like rankings you have, then that's respectable by all means, but don't hound me in the comment section if I have like a character that you personally love as a rank high or a rank lower than your own individual lists, because we can all have our own opinions at the end of the day and we can all do our best to respect them. So that is our tier list for the characters. Now I'm going to be doing a different tier list, and this is going to be based around, actually I'm kind of glad that that's the case. Let's see, what does that look like? Ah, that's fine. It's going to be based around the route itself rather than the actual character like. So whose route in the game do I like best? I think Hanako's route was the weakest throughout the game, and she's going to be placed at detail. So there's only 5 routes throughout the game because there's 5 characters. So they're all going to be like my favourite route, my second favourite route, my third favourite route, fourth, and then Hanako unfortunately is last. And I think it's just simply because her route is just too short. I find if her route was longer, then her character would be able to be more in depth, because I feel like Rin's was the longest, and then Shizuni's was also quite long, Lily's was also fairly long, and the other character and Emi's was also actually medium length. So actually I think that's where we're going to go next. I find that the length of the route itself is also important, not just for context, because then it gives like the room required to be able to go into depth about each of the characters and the side characters and the other things that are going on around them. So Hanako D, Emi C. Next up we are going to rank who are we going to rank next? I actually think Lily's is middle. Like, we go through her like personality quite a lot. Like, we go to the countryside house, we also go to the restaurant, stuff like that. We really went to a lot of places with Lily, but like Hanako, it kind of suffered with a bit of the route isn't long enough, but it's definitely longer than Hanako's, and possibly around the same length as Emi's as well. So next up it will be Shizuni. I find her route to be very strong, like going to like their like manor house and stuff like that, getting to know the brother and father too. But her route went very in depth, but also the factor that both characters, both the protagonist and her, have this like ongoing conundrum with one another every time they meet up with one another. It's like competitiveness, and the main character started to learn sign language in order to communicate with Shizuni rather than always relying on Misha in order to go about their ways. And finally we have Rin. I think her route is the strongest throughout the game, because remember, just because a character's route is one I prefer the most does not mean that the actual character itself is one I prefer the most, even though Rin is a character which I really like. But that is it, folks. That is going to be our tier list of today. It is a completely original idea. Obviously no one has ever done this sort of thing before. Sorry, something caught my throat there. But I hope you enjoyed it regardless. I know it's like a bit of a lazy video, but literally I can't really find anything at the moment to be able to play and be able to play it, then edit it, then render it, and then upload it. With the time span I have left today, it's nearly 8 PM. I usually have more time for this, and at the moment actually I've been going on morning jogs. One of my New Year's resolutions of this year is to exercise more, and for that to be a fruition I decide that every single morning, unless it's absolutely chucking it down with rain, I'm going for a morning jog every single day for at least 2022, but also from there beyond as well. Or if it's absolutely chucking it down, but I think of an alternative exercise to do throughout the day. Remember, tomorrow at 6 PM British Standard Time, we are going to be doing a live stream congratulating and celebrating the 10th year that this game has been out, which originally came out on the 4th of January 2012. So looking forward to seeing as many of you there as possible. Thank you all so much for watching. Remember, this has been my own list, so it doesn't need to reflect your own list in any way, shape or form. So that's like the characters individually or the routes in which the game diverted through. But because Rin's is S and Shizuni's is A and then Lily's B, then Emmy's C, then Hanako's D, does not necessarily mean that one is bad. It just means that I prefer one route over the other route. And because there's 5 routes and 5 categories, 5 routes and 5 categories, so we did them like that. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you all to see you at the live stream tomorrow, and we shall see each other's in the next stream or the next video, whichever it may be. Hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day and take care of yourselves.